anything worthwhile in life involves pushing through resistance.
That's good.
And when you feel that resistance, if you're about something big, that's where you need to be. Don't walk away from it. Embrace it, because that's going to be your entire life.
Welcome to Set Life, where we tell stories from our industry. I'm Kelly Leger, and this is Amber Buteau.
Welcome to Set Life. I'm Dan Rubottom, guest host, and Hosanna, my sidekick. Shotgun.
I get to be Robin for once.
Robin,
Nice.
yeah. I can be Batman then?
Oh, there you go.
And we have a great guest today we just met named Brad Rushing.
How you doing?
Good to have you here today.
Good to be here.
So tell us a little bit about what you do in the production world.
I'm a cinematographer. I principally do lighting and camera work on mostly narrative feature films, but also television shows, commercials, music videos, documentaries. I mean, I'm a gun for hire. So if it's within my realm of experience, I'm up for it. I always like doing new things. I like broadening my horizons. And that's probably the totality of it.
Yeah, very interesting topic to me because I'm a cinematographer as well.
Agreed.
And we have one as well right here.
Working my way
Robin.
up. Catching up, Dan. Catching up.
Yeah.
Got some time.
So you do features as well.
So it's interesting because now I've been in the business since 1987, and I started here in Houston, Texas. I was a student at high school for the performing and visual arts. I was a fine art student, so not a media student, not a filmmaker student. I came from a background of fine art, and I went to the University of Houston, and I began my career here. And then I went to Los Angeles in 1990, and I've been based there ever since.
Okay.
But the funny thing is that my career has evolved, and I think as a cinematographer and any of the higher level creatives, you have to be able to pivot, because if you have the niche and it's like, I do, this type of feature film, and then that goes out of fashion. So literally I started doing indie feature films. And then at a certain point, I broke into high-end music videos. And then Napster happened, and high-end music videos kind of unhappened.
Right. Yeah.
And I was able to do a transition into commercial production. I did a lot of commercials. So for several years, that was my bread and butter. And the same thing happened, that that market and that system kind of got turned on its head, and my clients went elsewhere, and it became a different structure. And then I found myself back principally doing a lot of independent feature films. And so just having that multiple type of skill set and being able to do those pivots, having friends in all of those different communities such that I was able to do the dance and move from one to the other. In a perfect world, I would love to, mix them up.
Right.
One of my mentors was Alan Davio.
Oh,
and
yeah.
One of his pieces of advice to me.
You met him?
Yeah, I met him. He was one of the people who was a mentor to me.
Awesome.
And one of his pieces of advice, which I've subsequently found out he's given to a lot of people, he said, Brad, do feature films because you love them. Do commercials to pay your mortgage. That paradigm really doesn't exist now, but the principle of it, the idea that, that there is passion work and there is the work that we do to pay our bills and enrich ourselves. One of my very dear friends here in Houston, Scott Szabo. Do you know him?
Oh, yeah.
So Scott Szabo, he's also an HSPVA kid, and we've known each other for decades. We collaborate all the time on film projects, on music projects, because I also do music. One of his sayings is my favorite. He says, there's three kinds of work. There's art, there's craft, and there's rent. And it's really just a different iteration of what Alan Davio had said. And so in answer to what you ask, we all have the high profile stuff that looks really sexy and has the great optics. And then we have the stuff, we don't tell people about. It's like, well, I did a corporate interview, or I did B-roll for a real estate company. And sometimes the less glamorous projects pay the best, and the ones you're most passionate about. I did a music video before I left LA, which I think is one of the favorite I've ever done, but the budget was, almost nothing. Wow. But I'm one of those crazy people that I do it for passion. Of course I have to to maintain myself like everyone else. I have to maintain a salary, but I like to have the discretion that if there's a project which speaks to me personally or creatively, I'm not going to necessarily disregard it for any one reason or another. It's like I take everything based on a multitude of appealing prospects.
Would you say that those other experiences working on the lesser cool sets, like the corporate jobs, have helped refine your craft in doing the bigger feature films or other things that you like to do? Does it help keep you sharp, or is it kind of just different?
Well, you specifically talk about the corporate type stuff. And to me, to be honest, that stuff's a little bit numbing. But it teaches you humility. It teaches you patience. My trajectory has not been this. My trajectory has been this. And so you can go from something very high profile and you're thinking, man, I made it. And then, a year later, you're like, oh my God, what's happened? But you have to realize that it's an oscillation. It's not like you haven't crashed.
Right.
It's like, right now we're in something like the 18th month of one of the most dramatic collapses of the business in terms of its robustness, and we're all reinventing, we're all recalibrating and pivoting, and so you just have to stay lively. One of the things I always tell people about this business, the only constant is change.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true.
It is always, the technology will change,
Yeah.
the people will change, the content will change, the taste of the audiences will change, the clients will change, your relationships to some of these people, just the dynamics. I don't mean the personal relationships, but the amount of power this person has.
Yeah.
It's a moving target, so it keeps you on your toes, it keeps you young, but it's that ability to pivot, that ability to go from some huge show to some little corporate thing, and not sit in that corporate thing and like, where's my grip department? Where's my, because it's a trip for me to not have a camera sit on my, who's going to push roll? Oh, it's me.
It's you.
And it's so much pressure because I'm like, usually I'm focused on my domain, and a lot of times I don't even operate camera. I love it.
Yeah.
But, sometimes you just don't for whatever reason. But then when you, like the little shoot I did in Los Angeles before I came here, it was me, the director, who were experienced people, and two PAs. And my mind simply melted with everything we had to remember and manage.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it a long time, so I know a lot of these things. But it's just, you're just like, what have I forgot? Because even if I'm a DP with a crew, I'm like, I'm human. I could forget something. I could overlook something. So now I'm responsible for everything, and it's a different experience, but it makes you resilient. I really do not like to be intimidated by challenges. I take on challenges as opportunities for personal growth. I take them as opportunities for looking at new paradigms and creating in different ways. More so than things like corporate, like working on super low budget features. I worked for Roger Corman's company.
Oh, yeah.
Concord.
Yeah.
And I remember, his studio was a converted lumber yard in Venice, California. And they literally called it Corman School of Film because it was people mostly coming to their first opportunities. Yeah. It wasn't my first opportunity because I had started in Houston, but it was really my first opportunity stepping into the role of cinematographer on an actual feature film that was going to get released in a commercial context to the world. And like, they'd be like, oh, you can't have a dolly, and all of the things, that you couldn't have and you couldn't afford. And you can either just allow yourself to be denied and say, well, I'm going to do compromised work because I don't have the tools, screw you guys. If you wanted it, you should have paid for it. Or you can have, because again, I'm an artist first, and I'm like, I don't really care. Assigning blame for compromise is irrelevant to me because I don't want to compromise. So if I can't do the thing I thought I was going to do, I will look around and see what are the resources.
Yeah.
What's cool that I can do with what's sitting right in front of me.
Right.
And I would literally walk around the studio and I would look in the corners, I would look in the trash cans, and seriously, and I'm like, oh, that's a gobo,
Piece of glass here, piece of, yeah.
And it's so funny because years later, I was doing second unit on a film called Torque, which is a Warner Brothers movie, $55 million Warner Brothers movie. And I had a scene I was picking up from first unit with Martin Henderson, the lead actor, and he's in a garage. It was the space dressed up as a motorcycle garage, and he had this photo, this Polaroid of this girl who's his love interest, and we just dolly around him, and it was right on his face, and it was very poignant. And the light was too clean. You know, I just had probably a Fresnel on him, and it was too clean. And out here, there's all these union grips and electricians, and out there's a 10-ton truck loaded with anything I could have possibly wanted.
Right.
And in my head, I review, and I'm like, I'm not putting a cookie on him. I'm not putting a hard cookie. I'm not putting a cello cookie.
Right.
I'm like, I got to schmutz it up. And immediately my Roger Corman brain came, and I walked away, and I'm looking through the trash can. I found a C-47 bag, a clothespin bag.
Yep.
And I had a Leica on him, which is like, ellipsoidal projector light. And I go with everybody looking at me on this $55 million set, and I interpose a clothespin bag in the Leica, and I'm like, it's perfect. It was so subtle. It was
Soften it up a little bit or whatever.
but it was an irregular type of soffita, and this is what he needed is irregularity, but
Nice.
Cucaloris irregularity.
Yeah.
No, but it's not even perfect. That's like,
Yeah.
oh, you'd be going, oh, he used a Cucaloris.
Right, right.
So I went to something organic.
Love it.
And a lot of my lighting decisions are based on feeling.
Yeah.
And woe be unto the person who asked me on set, why did you do that? Because my explanation, they'd be like, I kind of felt it right here. But the funny thing is that the crew thought this was hilarious, and they got a Pelican case, and they labeled it. They called it, the RX-27 light modifier. And, you open it up, and there's a derelict clothespin bag. But it's that. So in answer to your question, it's just the ability to not get so full of yourself that there's only one way
Right.
to remain malleable, to remain open to possibilities, to not ever be forced in the corner of doing compromised work. Like you literally, again, I'll just sit there and say, okay, well, what is available to me? And what is the best thing I can? It's like a chef.
Yeah.
It's like if you only have noodles and tomato sauce,
Right.
you're not going to try and make fettuccine Alfredo. You're not going to try and make lasagna. But like, what is the most amazing thing you can make with that? Focus on that.
It's really good.
Yeah.
That is so good. I would love working with you just based on what you just said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the same way of like, how do you just think out of the box, work with what you have. If you have just a Lowell light kit, how can I make that look good? Or if I have no lights and I have a van that's white, can I use that as a balance or whatever? Those kind of things.
And you're not a DP until you've lit something with car headlights. Right? You have. I mean, that's a rite of passage.
Yeah, and now you can bounce an iPhone light off of something that,
I will never forget the first time I saw you use an iPhone with a glow, and I was in a car, and I wrapped it around the guy's face, and we're shooting, and it was the first time in my entire career that we had to stop because we got a call on the key light.
airplane mode. Now, next time. That is so funny.
I want to say something about this mixing it up, because again, if you look at challenges as opportunities rather than handicaps, it changes your relationship to creativity.
And it changes your
Really good.
attitude about how you look at the day and like, are you going to have fun today or are you going to be bummed out?
And also, are you going to do good work? And are you going to be proud of your work? Or are you going to be sitting there grudging like, it could have been good if.
Right.
And one of the first places that my mind explored this possibility was, again, remember, I was a fine art student. And so when I went to University of Houston, I was a fine art student with also some film classes. And I had life drawing classes. And for anybody who's been an artist in life drawing classes, they get pretty boring. It's like, oh boy, some more fruit, another mannequin with a cloth draped over it. And this one time, mercifully, the instructor said, you can pick your media. So I looked through my paper, and there's this black sheet of paper. And I always liked Conte crayons, which are like these very hard compressed pastels. They're not, pastel is soft and mushy. Anything that's soft and mushy, I make a horrible mess. Don't keep it away from me.
Yeah.
But the Conte is almost like graphite.
Okay.
And so I took a white Conte and the black, and I was drawing for the first time in my entire life the highlights instead of the shadows. I was literally changed my relationship. And that incredibly boring still life was one of the most fun things I ever drew, and is a drawing I'm still very proud of.
Well,
That's really cool.
I would think that would kind of influence how you are able to look at light and see light and how it behaves on
This is my point. Is like when you allow your mind to not be shut in by limitations, when you don't be rigid in your thinking. There's not just one way. And another great example of this is a story I read. Carlos Alomar is a guitar player who played a lot for David Bowie. And he's got this story where one day David Bowie brought him in to play lead guitar on a track. He played with Bowie before. Of course he can play lead guitar on a Bowie track. No problem. Tie my hand behind my back and blindfold me.
Yeah.
And Bowie, being the innovator he is, he said, I want you to play this solo on one string.
Oh.
So all of a sudden,
You're a guitar player, you know that.
all of a sudden, the scales didn't matter.
Yep.
Everything he'd ever played before, he had to find a new way.
Yeah.
Now, he understood musicality, he understood melody, but he had to, so all of a sudden he was thinking again. He wasn't on autopilot. And this is why this stuff is important, is when you do that, you cannot be on autopilot. You know, if I came in here and I said, you can't use those lights.
Right.
Like, now what are you going to do? And you would have to think in a new way.
Yeah.
And you might even say, well, I can't even make it work in this space. Let's shoot it outside.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you can be that radical in your thinking. Like, you don't have to be sitting here, oh, I have to do it on the stage and I have no way to do it on the stage. It's like through the process of elimination, it's like, it's just ain't going to work like this. All right. How will it work?
Yeah.
How about this? How about this is crazy? We'll drive in a car. We'll interview Brad in a car, driving down the road. The lighting will be variable, but it'll be interesting. It'll be different. You know, it'll be cool. And it's just those kinds of like, you know, throw something crazy into, and I'll literally do that sometimes. It's like what's something insane? Like what would be so stupid?
Yeah.
And also when I'm scouting locations, like, of course you look at the places you normally look, but I always tell myself, where wouldn't I put a camera? And then I go look there.
It's really
like,
cool.
What about way down here? I go like, look what's up there, or you know, look what's you know, it's those kinds of things. It's those forcing yourself to engage as though you're a child, as though you have no experience and you're walking in for the first time, and you're like, what's possible?
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it's super fun hearing that, because as a young filmmaker, you hear a lot of guys my age coming up saying, well, I can't do it because I don't have this gear. I can't do it because I don't have that budget. Or they want to jump into bigger things.
Particular camera model that
they don't have the latest and greatest. I mean, we're in a day and age where everything is now. Everything has got to be the new product. I mean, we're all walking around with a new phone every year practically, right? And so it's super encouraging to hear somebody with your experience saying, no, at the end of the day, do you know your basics and can you still be creative? I think like the term creativity has evolved so much in our day and age, but at the end of the day, it's to be creative is to make something out of nothing.
Right.
It wasn't to add, hey, you know what? It's already been kind of made. I'm just going to change one setting.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, you adjust it. That wasn't creative. You adjusted a little bit more. But I love hearing you talk about how you're manipulating things from new ways or new angles or exploring in that creativity. And I think that's really fun to do and easy to do. But the important part is, you know, your fundamentals too. Right,
course
like
you
I think
do.
young creatives want to jump to that fun creative land, but they don't know how their fundamentals like solid to be able to go back to that.
As a guitar player,
Yeah,
you
as a
understand the
musician.
pain of scales and building up calluses.
Yep.
As an artist, like, why am I drawing all these bloody still lifes?
Right.
It's not like we're gonna hang. I'm learning.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I will say to you also that as a young filmmaker myself, good mindset, like never grow
Yeah.
old.
Always think that.
And
Absolutely.
but as a young filmmaker myself, people conflating the ability of a tool with the quality of the product is such incredibly limited thinking. It's magical thinking. Now, I don't mean magical in a good way. I mean magical in a like, give me $1 million kind of way.
Yeah.
Because I'm camera agnostic now. I would rather give Roger Deakins an iPhone
Yeah.
than give some schlub who doesn't know what they're doing an IMAX camera.
Absolutely.
Because Deakins is going to know the strengths and limitations, and he is going to make an amazing image. So I've literally shot with crappy, noisy cameras, and I'm like, you know what? That's the vibe. I'm adding more noise. I'm going black and white. It's like you lean into the aesthetic.
Yes.
If you don't have a choice, you don't shoot it crappy and say, well, now it's noisy and crappy. It's like, no. I meant to do that. And you embrace that limitation as a creative choice, and because the other thing is like, when you try to do a thing you can't do and you half-ass it, and then even worse, try and cover it up like it's noisy, and now you hit it with so much noise reduction that it looks like, I don't even know.
Right.
But it's just, you really have to, you cannot be precious about your ideas. And that's true even with collaborators. Like as a cinematographer, you're like, oh man, I know how I want to do this. And the director comes in and it's like, yeah, we're going to do it like that. And sorry. The director's like, and then because of the hierarchy, you can either be grudging about it or you can be like, okay, let me switch that. And now I found a way into what that director wants.
That's your pivot again there.
Yeah, but you're not going into it with resistance. You're going into it with recalibration. And you're like, oh, okay.
Really good.
It's a matter of looking at it as a collaborator. You're not here to serve yourself as a cinematographer. You're here to serve the project and the lead of that. How do I bring to your project to life through my skills?
Well, we speak with a collective voice.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, the entirety of life is about imperfection. Like everything about our lives.
Yeah.
And the more we lean into those kind of, look, we all know people who are negative. Screw this, screw that. This is oppressing me. That person there. And I understand the pain. They say so much of life is like, there's what happens, and there's how we respond and react to it.
Yeah,
we have no control over what happens.
Right.
We have 100% control over how we respond. Like, do we fly off? Do we keep our cool? Do we, moan and complain, or do we say, how do I win this? How do I win this in a way they will not see coming?
Yeah.
And so many of the greatest innovations and breakthroughs in creativity are as a result of that. Did you guys see a movie called Baron von Munchausen, Adventures of Baron von Munchausen by Terry Gilliam?
I know the name.
Well, I'll give you, okay.
I know.
How about this? Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Well, yes.
They wanted horses. They wanted live animal horses. They could not afford horses. So what do? Coconuts. Now, would you have rather them have horses?
Not with that movie.
Right there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. It would have never.
But do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like they took this limitation. They took this thing they could have been like, and they made it work for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I'm talking about.
This is so much good stuff. It's like a lot of gold. But I want to go back just a little bit to how did you get interested in high school years, child? Were you interested in filmmaking at any point?
Well, I'm mentally condensing this story so that, we'll get out of here before tomorrow morning.
Right.
As a kid, I drew, and I was a very, very shy kid. And believe it or not, I'm still shy, but I've learned how to negotiate in the world. But I was such a shy kid, and I was a very creative kid. And like, while all those other kids over here playing football, I was looking at grass or bugs or the sky. And I was social. I mean, I had friends. It wasn't like I was some, strange kid all the time, but I was just the quiet kid. I was the introspective kid. And I don't know, just being able to, there's things in me that I felt I could express through drawing and explore through drawing. And that just evolved to where, in high school, I just didn't want to be in that space. I was like, I really needed to be with my tribe, creatives. And at the time I didn't know it, but when I got to high school for performing in visual arts, I was like, oh my gosh. Like I was telling somebody just last night, it's like, even though we are all very demographically different from different backgrounds and cultures, we are all the same in that because we're all creatives.
Right.
Like I don't ever remember any fights. There was nobody I didn't like. Like it was like heaven being there. And so getting in that space and being nurturing, and you could be whoever you wanted, self-expressed, nobody judged you, dress how you want, be how you want, grow your hair long, bring your guitar to class. I mean, it was brilliant. And my last year, one of the media students, because back then they had a media department, came in and said, does anyone of the art students want to draw some cells for animation? And you could tell by now I'm like, yeah, something different, something new, count me in. And I did it. And then I remember seeing it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my art. It's taken on another dimension. It's moving in time. And I was enchanted. And at that point, I thought it would be an adjunct. And by the way, I was playing music, writing music by this point, you know, because, and some people think of them as different things. I don't. I mean, they're all an expression with a different tool.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about filmmaking is it incorporates visual art. It incorporates music. There's a musicality. You guys know when you're operating, you can literally, even though it's just random people, there's a rhythm of duh, 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 duh. And it's surreal.
Yeah.
It's surreal, but it exists. You
talk about this a lot with people. Like, I'm a musician too. I see light and the camera movement, all it like as music a lot of the times.
It is.
So that's true. Very much.
So that got me into this amazing, and I love science. So add that in there too.
Yeah.
But, and then I started doing it in college. And I remember when I got out of college, you know, I started working in it, and I loved it. And then I realized that at the time here in Houston, that if I wanted I knew how hard it was going to be. I knew what an uphill battle it was. I knew it was going to cost me. And that's the other thing I will tell all the people out there who are watching this is anything worthwhile in life involves pushing through resistance.
That's good.
And when you feel that resistance, if you're about something big, that's where you need to be. Don't walk away from it. Embrace it, because that's going to be your entire life. Your entire life is going to be about the resistance to get to the next and the bigger and the better, and all the good things are on the other side of it.
Wow.
You know, if it's easy, chances are it's not the good thing, you know? And so, but that was the choice that I made, was that if I am going to put myself through that and make these sacrifices, I'm going to go where it will count the most. And at that time it was Los Angeles. And I moved with $600 and my little bit of stuff in my tiny little Mustang car, and drove out and slept on a friend's floor until I found a single bedroom apartment, and like anywhere from 2 to 6 of us all lived there. I mean, it wasn't luxury. It didn't need to be luxury. It was literally a crash pad. It was a launching pad. It was a base of operations for us to get out there and meet people and experience things. And that's, you know, that's the by any means necessary. It's like, you know, of course I need a safe place. I need a comfortable place. But like, I don't need my own bedroom. I don't need, like, we didn't have furniture. You know, we sat on the floor, sat on milk crates. But who cares? Because that's not what was most important to us.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, and so then I got out there and I just bashed away for a few years at odds and ends, and finally did some work for Roger Corman. I still have, and that's the other thing, is you will meet friends at each of these junctures that you'll carry all your life. I still have friends from college. I still have friends from HSPVA who we work on projects together. I still have friends that I met working for Roger Corman.
And a lot of famous people have come out of there too, from Corman's film school of, or what did you call it? The
Roger Corman School of Film. A lot of the people that folks think of came out, you know, prior to me, like, you know, James Cameron, Ron Howard.
Yeah.
Even people like Jack.
Been around a long time.
Even people like Jack Nicholson and Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
Worked for him. Vincent Price. Now, Vincent Price was already an established actor, but you know, Ron Howard got his first directing opportunity. Francis Ford Coppola, Dementia 13.
Right.
I think he shot it in a weekend. He shot it on. One of the things that Corman would do is he'd be like, "Well, we built this set. Let's shoot something else." And I'm pretty sure that Coppola went in on a weekend and shot on these sets that were laying around. Which is one of the things that James Cameron, you know, he'd tear his sets down so people wouldn't shoot on his set. Cameron else is using that. Yeah, Cameron did a lot of. He was doing a lot of visual effects at the time. Right. He would do models and stuff, and they used that stock model footage forever and ever. But it was really good. It was like John Dykstra quality.
Oh yeah,
beautiful miniature stuff. But again, these are people who go to an old lumber yard where the ability to build those kind of models doesn't exist, and they find a way, and then they become James Cameron.
Have you seen the documentary about ILM on Disney Plus?
I haven't seen this.
So good. I think everyone, you have to watch it. I mean, for those of us that kind of know the history of Coppola and Lucas and all the, But it really goes back into like how there's a lot of film footage that's never been seen before of them in ILM building it, doing all those model work, Dykstra and all those guys, Dennis Murin. But as we kind of come to kind of near the end here, I want to ask you kind of what you're doing now, um, current projects, or kind of where you're going from here.
Well, I think I'm going to give you a funny story. First, a quick overview. It's been a really weird 18 months, unprecedented for all of us. A contraction in the industry like I've never seen, and it's everything. It's scripted narrative, it's reality, it's commercials, it's a recalibration. I do believe on the other side of it, there'll be something new. It'll be robust. If we pivot, we'll be fine. I do not feel threatened by AI. I think AI is potential to be a great tool, but I think at the end of the day, it's soulless. And so people who have this dystopian vision of it replacing us all, I don't think that's going to happen, because honestly, if it would happen, it would already have replaced writing. It would have already replaced music.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I've got coming out, I shot a feature film in Jackson, Mississippi last year called The Movers, which stars Christopher Lloyd, Jenna Malone, Terrence Howard, and Tom Everett Scott. Also, Grant Feely, Luke Skywalker in the Obi-Wan series. Every day on set felt like I'm on a science fiction convention. And in case you're wondering, everybody was super sweet and kind.
Yeah.
And so the director on that is Giorgio Serafini, and I'm so excited for that movie to come out. I had a lot of hand in helping develop the visual effects. I've pitched a song to Giorgio, one of my songs, to go into the movie. I had a song in a movie a couple of years ago called Holiday Harmony, was the name of the movie, with Brooke Shields and Jeremy Sumter, and I had a song in that, which happened by accident. But since we're wrapping up, I won't go into that story. But anyway, so I pitched a song to him, and I'm just, again, I just want to get back to the multiplicity. Like I'm not satisfied with just one thing.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to. I'm presently in Houston shooting finishing up a documentary on the beloved River Oaks Theater, which is so meaningful to so many of us.
Iconic. Yeah.
It was built in the 30s, and many of us were, even as a kid, before I wanted to be a filmmaker, I would go see things there. I saw the Beatles' Let It Be and the band's The Last Dance with the Band, or The Last Waltz with the band with my brother years ago. And recently it changed hands, and there was conversation about it being torn down, and the decision was made to renovate it with the help of a lot of locals who banded together as the Friends of River Oaks Theater, and they raised money and they raised awareness, and they took on the initiative of doing a documentary. Maureen McNamara, who's involved with Friends of River Oaks Theater, she worked at the theater. She's one of the co-directors. Michelle Muller, who's a noted director in town.
She's been on the show here.
Yeah. Right. Well, Michelle is the other co-director, and so I've been shooting it, and I was so pleased that they brought me back to finish it. There's a few more days. It's reopening on the 3rd.
Okay.
And the other thing I'll tell you about is a unique experience that I had, this music video I alluded to. So, when you get into this business, especially if you're in a market like Los Angeles, recognizable people start becoming ubiquitous. And I can't say you become jaded to it, but it just becomes kind of normal. And, you meet people's friends, and there's somebody like, oh, I know who this guy is. And so Sean Piccinino, who's a director I work with an awful lot, he directed Holiday Harmony. And bless his heart, he's the one who said, Brad, I want to put your song in a movie. Okay. but anyway, the company we work for that did that movie is this company called ESX Entertainment, and they're based up in Petaluma. And the executive producer of that company is a guy named Ali Afshar, who, he made his name as a race car driver, and he's a filmmaker and an actor, and he's just a Renaissance man and a super cool guy. And he puts a lot of energy into bringing, projects and awareness to Petaluma, which is his hometown. And he's a huge rock and roll fan. And he was at a Def Leppard Journey concert, and he runs into Patrick Muldoon, actor Patrick Muldoon. and they knew each other. And Allie's like, so Patrick, what's up? And he says, oh man, Denise Richards has this reality show. And Denise and Patrick, they've known each other since they were 19. They were also in Starship Troopers together.
Yeah.
And he says, Denise has this Entertainment reality show and they want me on it. And there's this opportunity to do a music video because Patrick also does music. And it's so funny because he said he's done it for years. And so now that he's finally releasing some, his mom's like, well, it's about time somebody else heard it. But anyway, so Patrick tells Allie he's got this music video to do. And he's like, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. And Allie says, oh, well, why don't I get this director, Sean Piccinino, you should talk to him. And Patrick goes, Sean Piccinino, the guy I met at Casper Van Dien's wedding, because Casper and Sean are friends. And he's like, yeah. So Sean calls me up. He says, do you want to shoot this music video? There's not a lot of money because Patrick's kind of paying for it himself. You know, he's not really throwing money at it. It's just sort of like, you know, this cute thing that they're doing. And remember what I said, I don't half-ass anything.
Right.
I'm like, sure, I'll do it. Of course. I mean, he's in the friends group and I know Sean and everything. And so we end up shooting at Patrick's sister's house. And I remember because Patrick is like this incredibly energetic guy. I mean, oh my gosh. He and Sean and I, like if we were in high school together, we would be separated. It would put us in different corners of the room. But he finds out that Sean and I are both musicians and songwriters. And he's like, oh, I want y'all to be in the band in the video. I have never been in a video in my entire life. I don't really like to be on this side of the camera.
Right.
But who's going to say no to that?
Yeah.
You know? And so we shoot the day we shot the day with Denise and her team from E Entertainment was shooting us. And it was funny because it was like me and Sean and 2 PAs doing everything. And then E was like, I don't know, 20 people.
Right.
And
Team covering the,
but bless their hearts because they're like, hey, if y'all want to use anything. So we used their Dana Dolly. Really nice people. And you know, Shayna and Amit, you know, Patrick's sister and brother-in-law and their family. It literally felt like family, just being in this wonderful place. And all the entertainment people were great. But because it was her show and it was the end of the show, she was getting tired and they just needed a lot of stuff with her. And we ended up getting her 2 hours.
Wow.
So, wow. But there was always a plan to do a pickup day. So it ended up, we rolled over some of her stuff on the pickup day. And I did this right before I came to Houston. And so we came back, we shot all that stuff. I've seen stills from it. I think it's going to be an amazing video. I think it's going to be really, honestly, I think it's the best video I ever did.
Wow.
You know, there's a lot of much more well-known videos that people like jump up and down about.
Yeah.
But I think even aesthetically, it's going to be one of the best videos I ever did. I love the song. And we shot this day and I was so peeled by the time we were done with Denise. And we're like, okay, now we're going to the studio to shoot the band stuff. And I get there, I'm like, I'm so tired, I don't even want to light it. And so somehow I found the energy and I was sticking up these Pavo tubes and getting those Pavo, lit it so simply.
Yeah.
I double armed a C-stand out over Patrick with a little tube for a downlight.
Yeah.
But I swear to God, I was flying by wire because my brain wasn't working. I was literally just on instinct. I was like, I just put stuff up. It doesn't look good. Move that. Okay.
Well, that's where the autopilot sometimes is a good thing to have. And he's done it so many times.
And sitting there with the phone, and I thought I would want it to be like blue back and green front. So I'm like, the green looks like crap. And I'm just going through the spectrum. And I hit an orange. I'm like, oh. And again, I felt it. I didn't think it.
Yeah.
I was like, I can literally, it's almost like a feeling where I'm like, oh, that feels good. Leave it right there.
Yeah.
And so we did it. And then I was so dead. I'm like, now you got to go rock. So Patrick, being the main guy, was on guitar and he was singing. And Sean has this beautiful hollow body Gretsch, blue. Oh, it's so beautiful. And so he was playing the second guitar. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, so I was playing bass. And I have this gorgeous walnut gold hardware Fender Precision Bass Special. It is such a beautiful guitar. I was so happy to be part of it, to have it be, you know, to be able to show it up. And so we're sitting there and we're rocking and we're shooting and I guess it was okay. And Amit's watching us, and he's like, more energy. And at some point, like we all were stretched pretty thin, and some folks got a little bit spicy and loud, and which is like, I mean, nobody was being mean to anybody, but people were stressed. And I was just like, oh, that's such bad energy. And I took that bad energy and I was like, I tore it up like I've never torn it up before. And when that video comes out, I'm like, I don't even know.
Well, we got to see this video.
We wait to see that.
We can know. So it was next level in so many ways, but that was so fun. It was so much more fun than these $1 million videos with, I mean, there's an experience being on these huge videos, and it's not to disparage them because they have their place. But in terms of the warm fuzzies inside, this homemade thing that was scrappy and we bled for,
right?
Patrick's giving me these big old hugs, and by the way, saying I want to write and record with you guys too. I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Well, so yeah, those are sometimes the funnest or most fun projects, is just the ones where you really had to bleed and sweat over a little bit. So tell us, how do we get in touch with you? How does the audience find you on social media, your website?
I'm on Instagram as Brad Rushing, DP for Director of Photography. So somebody already had my name. I always try to get my
Wait a minute, the whole thing was, say it,
Brad Rushing, BRADRUSHING, DP, like
DP.
Dog Pony, Dr. Pepper, Director of Photography.
Got it.
I've never heard Dog Pony.
Well, when you're talking to civilians,
civilians,
because it's part of my.
They don't need to know.
No, but what it is, when you're talking to civilians and you're getting their email address and you're like DP, they're like what? And like Dog Pony. Anyway, but so yeah, my Instagram is Brad Rushing DP, and my Facebook is Brad Rushing, and I'm around. You can Google me. There's a lot of videos and interviews and websites and good stuff, and hopefully no compromising things. If you find compromising things, there's a reward for it to be taken down.
There you go. Well, I look forward to seeing some of your stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
Look, I'm glad we got to meet today.
Yeah, it was
awesome. Hang out, and
that was fun, man. You guys are chill, and this is a beautiful little studio. Shout out to the studio.
Shout out to 4 the 1. That's right.
Yeah, I would love to shoot something here. We got a really nice, good sized psych up here. A little kind of insert psych up there.
Yeah.
Really chill environment, and there's a sweet dog named Adidas that I want to get to know better. I love that. Oh, I have to tell you. So when I went to Patrick's sister's house, they met me at the door. It's this really beautiful house in Larchmont in Los Angeles, and they're so cordial. And can we get you something to drink? Can we get you something to eat? Multiple times I said, can I meet your pets? Like, I want to meet your pets. And they take me into the kitchen to meet all these little scrappy dogs.
Yeah. Have you ever had somebody, you're like, I want to meet your pets, and it's just like a random animal that you're not ready for? Like, oh, yes, with a whole anaconda in the back.
When I was in high school and college, I worked at a pet store. I'm ready.
So you're ready.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm
If
ready.
the constrictor comes out, you're not going to freak out.
I'm fine with all animals, boa constrictors, spiders. I mean, look, there's the ones that are affectionate, the ferrets and the dogs and the cats and the birds. A little more fun. But yeah, you want to throw a snake at me? I'm cool.
Well, maybe we'll have snakes in a music video. We'll share you.
We will
No. Okay.
I won't go Indiana Jones on.
We'll have dogs. I feel like they're not adults. We'll do a nice puppy commercial in here.
Adidas.
Yeah.
You'll be signing it up.
Yeah. We would love to have you film in here, and let's stay in touch.
Yeah.
And so thanks again for coming on the set, Brad.
You guys.
Thanks, Josie.
And all my best to all your people, and may you have a great journey in your own career.
That's right. All right. Until next time, this is Set Life.